Hi everyone. On April 15th, the Holy Orthodox Church celebrates the memory of Saint Sukia and his 16 companions. Now, Saint Sukia was from the area of the Transcaucasus, now southern Georgia, but at the time was part of Albania, although the people that live in Georgia now really have no relation to those in Albania. But it's back in the 1st century that we are talking about, sometime between the years of 90 and 130, and so the geographical map was quite different. Now, Saint Sukia and his nobles were on their way to the capital of Armenia, and they were accompanying the Princess Sataneki, who was the daughter of the Albanian ruler and was the bride of the Armenian king. Well, on the way, after they had gotten close to the capital, they met an elder named Chrysos, and they became his disciples. And Chrysos convinced them to come with him into the land of Mesopotamia, which they did, and be baptized in the Euphrates River. And they all went and were quite devoted to him and convinced of the faith of Christ. Well, while the baptismal ceremony was still going on, all of these 16, along with Saint Sukia, saw a vision of Christ up upon the top of a mountain. And they were overwhelmed by this. And so they named the place the Cross of Annunciation and decided to stay. Well, after a while, the Albanian king sent some envoys to try and find where his nobles went. And they ended up finding the elder Chrysos. And they said to him, tell them that they are being summoned, they need to return, and right away. And Chrysos said, well, you'll have to ask them. They can do whatever they want. And the envoys were so upset by this that they slaughtered Chrysos right there on the spot with a sword and 3 of his other companions. Well, the remainder of the group decided to go into the mountains and erect a monastery where Saint Sukia would be the abbot. And they stayed there for a number of years, eating only plants and drinking water and nothing else. And in fact, the sun was so brutal in that area that it is said that their skin became hardened and began to grow hair to protect them from the sun. Well, after a while, a new ruler ascended the throne of Albania and also sent some envoys to see what was going on. And when he arrived, at that point, the leader of the envoys was startled to find that Saint Sukia and his companions looked more like savages at that point than they did nobles. And so he also demanded that they return. And Saint Sukia said no, that was simply not going to happen, that they had devoted their lives to Christ and they weren't going anywhere. And when this happened, these envoys lit a fire and threw all of these men into the fire. And as it was burning, after a while, they heard the men actually singing psalms as the flames were coming up about them, and the envoys were astounded. But then they took their swords and they went in and hacked up the charred remains. Well, the Albanian ruler did not want the Christians to do anything with their relics. So he had them buried there on the spot where they remained hidden and basically lying there for 230 years incorrupt, until at one point in the 4th century their relics were discovered and a great church was built on the spot, and a spring came up at that point that, from what I understand, is still in existence today. These are astounding martyrs, but a good example of how the high and mighty and princes of the world can themselves be persuaded by the lowly yet glorious gospel of Jesus Christ and completely change everything about their lives. It's a little unusual for us to have such good accounting of saints from that early, because the martyrs, by most accounts, died in the year 123, which is very early indeed. So let's take inspiration from their faith and their fortitude and do the best we can also to remain loyal to our Lord Jesus Christ. Bye-bye.